You can't replace part of the brain. Like, you
treat them the same.
A source of truth for the MedTech industry.
Coexists with the province.
Robot understands things automatically.
Number one show in the MedTech industry.
So Stryker got ahead of that and changed in the 90s, built $1 billion company that held up high, a lot of things.
State of MedTech with your host, Omar and Khateeb.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of MedTech Growth Levers. I'm Omar Khateeb, joined by my co-host, Orette Davis. Today we got a good one on the docket. We got two topics, real good ones. First one, AlphaTechSpine had a patient video that came out. I was a big fan of the video. There are some things that I'm going to critique along with Orette about where they are falling short, not necessarily on the video, but on the strategy. Full disclosure, I'm an Alphatec shareholder. I've been one since 2020. If you follow stocks, you would know that their stock is in the tank right now. I have not sold though, so full disclosure on that. Second part is we're going to be covering when you go to a conference, how you can leverage Twitter ads, how you should think about them. So with that being said, let's jump into today's topic. So I'm going to bring up the video real quick. And we're not going to watch the whole thing, but just so you guys can get a bit of a taste of what that is like. And
I'll drop it in the chat as well too, so everyone can kind of.
Oh yeah, good call. Yes. All right, and then let me see if I can share it here on. Let me see. I'm going to unshare on Zoom real quick, and I'm going to reshare it. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Interesting. Ah, there we go. Okay. There we go. Now we can see it. Perfect. Now we can see it on there. And I'm going to share my screen on Zoom. The part of the show I don't like, which is the complexity of playing these things. All right, let me see. How does that look for everybody? Can you guys see that whole?
Yep, you're live.
Okay, perfect. So here's the video, and I'm going to turn down the sound so it doesn't blast my ears. So essentially, exciting, epic music, right? We have a patient here who is a CrossFitter, top CrossFitter, had an issue and needed surgery. So it starts off, we'll have really good B-roll, him talking about his life before the injury. I'm a top 100 CrossFitter, really good, et cetera, et cetera. Then introduces the problem. You know, we get to the problem right around somewhere here. So again, a lot of great footage. I love it. They have like, some nice B-roll footage, but also some like user-generated content, right? So it's a really good video, right? Then we get to this point where it's like, I had this injury. I'm in a lot of pain. Wife comes in. My husband's not the same as he used to be. Life is hard. Okay, so adversity has struck. Great. Then we bring in the surgeon who talks about what they saw on the MRI, the CT, what they decide to do, right? Talks about that whole process. He's like, I don't want to get surgery. I'm afraid, blah, 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 etc. And we'll fast forward here to the end, which is gets back to CrossFit. And he's like, hey, I'm not like at the very top of the leaderboard, but I'm like climbing up. I'm pretty much back to normal life. I'm so happy I did this, right? So that's the patient video. Okay. So now let's start with where I saw this. Okay. This was seen on LinkedIn. Okay. And so we got 184 likes. Great. 5 comments, 13 reposts. Cool. All right. Now, Orette, let's start first with just the actual content first before we dive into some of the strategy and distribution where this, in my opinion, falls short. Thoughts on the video?
I think we're going to play point counterpoint on this and give the critique. I think video is very well done, very well polished. There's a lot of emotional appeal to it. I think like those aspects are great, right? Like clearly a lot of thought or planning went into this, right? Like there's all these B-roll shots, there's all these different stages of them at home, him working out, the doctor. So I think overall, like the presentation of the video, great. Like no argument with the video. And I think even kind of some of the background of like who this person was, the before and after, like I love that arc of, for anything marketing related, like this was life before, this is now life after, kind of bridging that gap. So those elements I'm a big fan of. I love it. But I'll get what's your point, and then we'll start move on to the counterpoints of this this video.
Yeah, I thought on the story they did a great job storytelling, and again,
Yes.
I thought it was really good. Again, it wasn't overly produced. They had some user generated content in there. The best part I think that was done is like if you look at a hero's journey, it's like you have the hero, tragedy is struck, life is terrible. Then comes the solution, right? And what I like is that they really focused on the patient. They didn't focus really at all on the product, which is a little bit of a miss. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But overall, it was good. Now, some people might say, well, it's a 4-minute long video. Who's going to watch it? The people who need this are going to watch it. So I thought that the length was okay. I think that there's ways that you can chop this up into clips, right? But overall, I like the length of it. The one critique on the content side I would put on the video is like, sure, they focused on the patient. They had the surgeon come in to say like, yeah, this is what we did. But if I'm like a potential patient and I'm like, oh, I have back injury, I'm an athlete, and I see this, it doesn't really persuade me as to why I should go and talk to my surgeon and say, hey, I actually want to make sure, like, are you using Alphatec product, right? That was a little bit of a miss where they could have spent maybe 15 seconds, 20 seconds, like we decided to go with Alphatec ALIF procedure or implant like for these reasons. This is why I like it as a surgeon. This is why I like it for my patients. Done. That's the one thing they should have covered.
I agree with you there. My other point on this, once again, counterpoint here, is like the background purpose of this video. Like who was this actually for? And it wasn't very clear if this is for me as a patient or is this for me as a orthopedic surgeon, right? Like that line was kind of skewed for me. It wasn't very obvious or very clear. Like I said, they didn't really tell the benefits of using a product. There weren't any necessarily demos of the product itself. Like it looks like they have a couple of some software tools to help with like planning and things like that, and that wasn't really shown too much in this. So there are a couple of elements there where it seems very heavily patient focused. If so, like where's the call to action to have your patients ask their providers, are you using this tool? Or if it's for physician focus, like where is it telling the benefits of using this versus an alternative solution, right? To me, that was lost. It's almost as if they tried to do, or what feels like to me, in my opinion, too much in one video, right? And probably that's why they have this at 4 minutes. And could this have been split up to different parts, different videos to answer each of those pieces?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think this did a great job to say, hey, like if you have, lower back pain or an injury, you should consider getting surgery. But again, doesn't persuade potential adopters, such as clinicians, doesn't really persuade patients. And again, like their whole thing is that let me refresh this page here. You see this at the end, but again, it's not that evident, which is you get to the end, Alphatec acquired this imaging technology called EOS. They have Alphatec informed by EOS. So again, like why Alphatec product? Why is this imaging important? If you go to their website, they have that product, right? So now that we're done, anything else on the content itself before we get into the distribution?
I think I do want to maybe back up a little bit here, and companies are at different stages, and this is a publicly traded company, so let's assume like large, big budgets, right? So, I always want to try to map what's the intention, what's the goal of something, an asset like this, right? Is this?
Can I further inform your point that you're about to make here? Let me just further inform it. If we look at their earnings report, okay, and come in here, to our sales and general administration. So 3 months ended 112 million, 6 months ended 226 million on sales and general administration. So you can assume a few mil here and there is going to be in marketing, probably more. But let's just give you that,
So they've got more than a few mil to spare, right? And once again, is this basically what I'm getting at, right? Is if you're a big company like this, is this like an awareness promotional piece? If so, how is it serving that goal and that mission, which we'll talk about, right? Like the lack of distribution in this regard. If you're a smaller company, right? What's that? How do you balance these like awareness type activities with like, hey, no, we need to drive like sales. Like how many sales do you think this video is driving for Alphatec? Or, how many doctors watch this and say, oh, you know what, like I need to learn more? Or once again, how many patients are watching this and saying, I need to go directly ask, like I have an upcoming surgery before I, go underneath the knife. I need to know that they're using this. Like there's somewhat of a disconnect in that, and maybe they can get away with it because they have a few million just to throw around. Who knows?
Yeah, some of which is my money. So, let's cover that. If you're going to spend the money on content, you have to spend money and put some resources and thought behind. Well, who's going to see this? Too many medtech companies waste a lot of money on creating beautiful content, and their distribution is nothing. So you might as well just not have had a video to begin with. So again, they can, if for the Alphatec team, marketing team, big fan of them. This is a miss, but I'm going to give you for free exactly what you should do with this. Okay. So the first thing is like, let's just look at this post by itself. Okay. There's no use of hashtags. Okay. If we go and let's just look at one hashtag that Alphatec users or their end customers are going to be on. Right. So if we look up spine surgery, again, we're using omnicreator.club. Shameless plug. I'm a founder of this company or co-founder, right? If we check the followers on spine surgery, okay, got 7,000 followers, including, by the way, look, like our feed is up top of this hashtag right now because I included it, right? So Alphatec should be using these hashtags that their end users are going to be following on LinkedIn, okay? So that's number one. Now, it gets a little bit worse, all right? Number two, if we go to Alphatec's LinkedIn page.
Before you do that, though.
Oh, yeah, jump in. Please jump in.
Go back to that post. And so I think there's an opportunity here, right? They specifically call out, what is this, Dr. Eric Sundberg, right? Like if Dr. Eric is active on social media, may or may not be, right? There's an opportunity there to tag them. There's an opportunity there in terms of promotion, once again, to use them as a thought leader in the ads, right? So I'm more likely to trust and believe another physician than another device company, right? So, even if this Dr. Eric is not active on social, like there's still an opportunity there to leverage a thought leadership post because once again, it's coming from a physician and not coming from this company, right? And so,
exactly,
if this were a series, let's say that how I would do this, right, is, and they may have done this, but probably didn't plan this out, is I would do this as a series, right? I would have 3 or 6 of these types of videos, and every single one we do some type of thought leadership sponsored post with the physician or with the clinic or whoever that is part of this surgery, like the hospital, like whatever it may be, to further like amplify distribution. Like imagine if they said like, Orlando Health, like every spinal surgery that happens here in Orlando Health is powered by or uses AlphaTechSpine equipment.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
And it's something, and that's us just spitballing here, but I think there's room for this because they even have a map on their website that shows all of the locations of hospitals that I believe are something that there's a map on there for Alphatec.
Right. No, exactly. Let's keep going. So we're
distribution.
So could have been better on the organic posting on LinkedIn proper. Okay. And just out of curiosity, let's look at the reposts. I think the reposts are going to be mainly looks like a lot of Okay, Coastal Orthopedics posted this. Hopefully Alphatec engaged with it.
That may be the physician's practice.
Potentially, yes. All right, so Alphatec, the company page should be going and engaging with this just to kind of boost it up. But that's okay. That's not a big deal. Let's get to the ads. So we get to their LinkedIn ad library. Let's take a look. Not running. These are all the ads they're running. They're not promoting that at all. Okay, there's a miss there. I'm okay with that. Here's where I'm not okay. Okay, it's a patient video, right? If we go to the Alphatec's website, scroll to the bottom. They're a publicly traded company. They only have a LinkedIn page? No, there's no way. There's no way that this public company is only running stuff on LinkedIn. So if we look on Facebook, they do have a Facebook page that looks like it was made in 2003. Profile photo is, it looks like a screenshot of a brochure. Like if somebody told me it was a public company, I would not believe that. And then their last posting was April 7th, 2016. Again, maybe this is not the actual, nope, that is their theirs, because sometimes it's a different page. So they have that on Facebook. Okay. Do they have anything on Instagram? No, they don't have anything on Instagram. What about TikTok? No. And look, TikTok has better search than Instagram. When I just put an L5-S1 herniated disc, here's all this content that comes up on that topic, including how to heal herniated discs, signs, etc. You know, if we type in spine surgery, you know, there's all kinds of content, you know, right? And so there's this missed opportunity just on the organic side to distribute this, so that the whole goal, if you're going to produce this kind of a video, is like, we want to persuade people to use our stuff. And if we can't persuade them to use our stuff, we can at least influence the patient population and educate them, so they say, hey, you know, I'm actually interested in this. And it's a growing area of interest, because for those who might follow Joe Rogan, every few episodes, Joe Rogan and an athlete or somebody starts talking about orthopedic implants. So people are aware of this. And so I just feel like it's a huge miss that, like, no ads are being run, but there's like zero presence on all these other channels where both the end user, being a surgeon, and the surgeon's customer, which are patients, are not on. You know, and actually here, while we're doing this, one last one, and then I'll throw it over to you. I'll end my rant. But I forgot to even check. Does Alphatec have I think they have a Twitter handle. I hope they have a Twitter handle. Doesn't look like they have a Twitter handle. There's no way that this public. Okay, there we go. So they at least have a Twitter handle. Okay. But again, so the Twitter handle, the last tweet they had was 2017. So, you know, and we all know that especially when it comes to conferences, which we'll get into in a moment, a lot of physicians have a Twitter handle somewhat active throughout the year, extremely active during these conferences. So for me, I know, you know, they have some really talented people over at Alphatec. They could do better. And I hope that they listen to this and don't take it the wrong way, and use this as a point of inspiration to say, hey, like, you know what, we can, you know, do these things. Because personally, this is why I invest in Alphatec. They have great products. They have, you know, they've really done some innovative things over there, not translating to this. And so it's not surprising that they may not be seeing the adoption that they want. So anyways, let me throw it back to you, Rhett.
Yeah, when I look at this, I think it once again goes back to really understanding the goals and what they're trying to achieve, and specifically on some of these social channels, right? Like if there is let's say it's a two-sided marketplace, right? They need to convince the physicians to use this product, and then also convince the patients as well too. You know, I assume some patients are going to want to be educated on this side of the equation, because otherwise, why would they put the effort into making the patient video success stories? That is a focus for them. So then, you know, with that, you really have to understand, okay, well, physicians are on LinkedIn and Twitter. We should have these assets on there. Patients are more likely to be on Instagram, on TikTok. We should have different different versions or different slices of video or other assets to appeal to that group. That way, kind of they're basically going to where their target customers are, and their customers are hanging out at. And it seems like they picked the one channel, LinkedIn. It's totally fine if they're only trying to get physicians and admins and things like that. But it leaves an opportunity on those other channels that seems to be missed, right? Like there's tons of people searching for just your TikTok search alone kind of demonstrates. You would think that would be a very niche topic, but there are dozens of hundreds of videos of people talking about that would have thousands of views. Right. So clearly there's a demand for those kinds of assets and a way to kind of boost their awareness through those channels. The other point I will make.
And real quick, can I point something out? Here's a video of when I search Alphatec. At least this comes up, but this is an ALIF procedure. I'm assuming that Dr. Grunch is using an Alphatec product, but I don't know. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, even just going kind of sidebarring on their website, they have all the procedures that they do. All of those procedures should have an accompanying patient-physician videos, and then kind of breaking those down into those various perspectives. But the one thing I'll say overall, and this has kind of been my stance on content as a whole, doesn't matter if it's written content, video content, your webinar, podcast, doesn't matter what the asset is the view should be like 20% on the production and 80% of the work on the distribution.
100%.
The other way around, and we'll spend 95, 97% on producing the content, and then the distribution is an afterthought, right? So you end up, that video probably cost them an easy $50K, and it's a single use. They did one LinkedIn post, and that's it. Like $50,000 for one post. I couldn't find you couldn't find like where else they were sharing that, because they clearly don't have any other social channels. There's no way they have that on their conference booth playing a 4-minute video on mute. So where is it being used, right? And so there seems to be like there's a disconnect there, and it put a lot of effort, time, and money into the production, but not into the distribution.
Yeah, totally. And again, at the end of the day, what I try and advise every MedTech company to do is to, you have to factor in the cost of creative, but that should be more to create more volume, right? Because again, the half-life of these videos doesn't last that long. And we know that these overproduced corporate videos aren't as persuasive. Their patient video that they did there, I loved it. With the exception of they should have done a little bit of better framing and positioning around why their product is a great solution and everything. But other than that, it was still a good video, right? But the distribution side is killing me. And this is kind of a good segue. I'm ready to jump into the Twitter ad side. Are you, Oret?
Yeah, we can go there.
Yeah, and that'll be a quick one, an easy one to cover, and then we can jump into some Q&A. But so with conference season coming up, and actually let me go to Twitter. I still can't call it X. It's just I try, it's very difficult. But going to conference season, Twitter is probably going to be Twitter has become a big platform. It always has been, but especially recently for news and real-time events, and trying to be a video first platform, believe it or not. And so going to these conferences, making sure that you pre-market yourself ahead of time is incredibly important. And then really leveraging your ads at the conference is the other side of it. So ahead of a conference, what I've been, doing for a long time and recommending people to do is to pre-market your events, whether it's your booth, your at conference events, etc., by doing a US only or whatever country that you're going to be in campaign targeting broad behaviors, such as the hashtags that the conference is going to have, and then also looking at, let's say, the followers, targeting the followers of the conference's Twitter handle, your followers, and then usually on Twitter, they'll have recommendations of who else to target and to include those in and do it as a wide US based campaign. Right?
Yeah. This is I really big fan of this strategy as a whole, like just to get additional touch points and awareness ahead of conferences. That's kind of the one good thing about Twitter for conference advertising, that you can actually target by the hashtags and then the followers of the association or the trade group, which you can't really do and target on, say, like Facebook or on LinkedIn. Like, you miss out on the hashtag targeting. With that, the other layer of that is obviously doing a little bit of geo-targeting. So, like, that people within, say, a 5-mile radius are going to be at the conference, going to be at the hotel. So you can kind of target them kind of as they're traveling in and out of these areas as well, too, to kind of get a little bit of additional exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah. The one thing I'll like challenge like to think about, right? Because everyone does the typical, hey, meet us at booth, 25, and everyone has the same similar banner, right? I think there's an opportunity, for really forward-thinking companies, or not even forward-thinking, but companies that know their market really well, is like really crafting a good offer to tie into the conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the goal there is you want to pre-book meetings, right? You don't want to just show up to the conference and just hope that people are going to show up to your booth, but you actually want to book meetings ahead of time and like offer an incentive for people to show up, right? So, hey, we're going to give discounts. I've seen people do CE credits. There's XYZ things you can do to further incentivize people to come to your booth. And I'm not talking about the normal, like, you're going to go win an iPad or some AirPods. Like, those people don't convert.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, you got to keep in mind who your customer is. Your customer makes like well into the 6 figures, sometimes even 7 figures. Doing an iPad raffle is not like who cares? I'm okay with having like cool booth experiences. Like, for example, something that might be worth doing, which I used to do when I ran booths, is I always thought it would be valuable to market that, hey, if you have like a large booth, like a 20 by 20 or something, create extra seating on the edge of the booth, okay, for people to just take a load off, charge their phone, and not be bothered, right? Because then you're still making your booth look lively, and naturally people will get drawn into the booth. I'm okay with that, right? So things like that is one thing. If you have coffee in your booth or food, I go back and forth on it. If you're a huge company, you can afford it, why not? But aside from that, I think really focusing on like the types of experiences they're going to have at the booth. I'm a big fan of having in-booth presentations. ConMed did a great job at AAOS last year with that. But going back to on the ad side, the content is important, but like whatever you're advertising, even if it's just saying, hey, we're going to be at this conference this year, be sure to come by our booth. Large, broad US based campaign. And then the day before the conference starts, you're going to replicate that same ad campaign, focus it down so you geo-target within a mile of the conference location, and do accelerated ads, which means that for a time-specific event, Twitter will accelerate those ads to your target users, right? And you may have to take out some targeting, because sometimes if you do this to, let's say, a mile or two, and you have the hashtags and everything, and it's too targeted, the audience is too small, the ads won't run. So you're going to have to take that targeting off, right? Which is okay, right? And then run those ads from the day before the conference to, let's say, the very last day. And very important to my marketers, make sure you check the lifetime budget that you're giving this campaign and the deadline, because by default, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or anything else, they're going to maximize budget to like a month usually. Okay, that's like the default setting. So make sure that you have that on hold. And this is a very tactical thing where, if possible, you should have somebody managing the campaigns remotely. That's what we do with our clients. Or if you don't have a agency, try and check the ads every few hours, and that way you can toggle them on and off in terms of which ads you want running, etc. Very last thing I would add, Oret, is that I think a really great, the founders are going to like this, a great tactic is use your company page and go and directly follow all the users, big players, etc. Okay, you don't lose points by having by following 100, 200, 300 people. Like a lot of company pages are obsessed with this thing about, oh, we want to follow like only a few. Forget that. The goal is if you follow them, you have a higher chance that they're going to follow you back, which means they're going to see your organic content. Plus, if you follow the hashtag of the conference that's happening, you'll notice a lot of surgeons, a lot of physicians who post, and they'll get like 1 or 2 likes on their content. Hey, go use your handle during the conference. The marketing managers at the conference should be on their mobile phone, checking Twitter and everything, and just go comment, hey, great photo. Hey, hope you can come by our booth and everything. That, believe it or not, tactically reciprocates and works because your competitors aren't doing it. I've talked about this tactic so many years. I think I'm the only one who still does it, and it works extremely well. Back to you, Oret.
I don't think I have really much else to add other than, let's see. Just once again, know your audience. I think Twitter's great. Don't limit yourself there, right? Could be opportunities on Instagram, on TikTok, some of these more like, quasi like real-time platforms. There could be opportunities there to do similar targeting. You'll miss out on the like hashtag targeting, but you'll still get access to the geolocation type targeting to kind of get in front of your target market during some of these conferences.
Yeah, exactly. And the very last thing that I would say is that you want to leverage Twitter as a channel throughout the year to engage your users, to connect with them, to speak with them, etc. Because then it just makes it a lot easier for you to stay to top of mind when the conference comes around. Because come conference time, that's when all these people are getting hit up. It's a lot easier to sort of develop those relationships and stay on their radar throughout the year so that they learn more about your company, different solutions you might offer, and then incentivize them to say, hey, actually, I've been seeing this company a lot. They've engaged with some of my tweets. Let me go by and check out their booth. It's very, very simple. It's tactical, but it works. Before we jump into Q&A, anything else you want to add on that one, Oret?
I think you've got it. Nothing really comes top of mind on this right now. So I think it's a good like primer into like how to get started with doing ads for leading up to conferences.
Perfect. Well, awesome. So that being said, we're gonna turn it over to our audience over on Zoom and see what questions they might have. So let me. So, and by the way, for those who are interested in asking any questions, feel free to just direct message Oret and I anonymously. If you want us to ask something, you're welcome to do that as well. Shella, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So you guys talked a lot about Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all these different channels. If I was to say that my target audience is direct to consumer right now, not health professionals, and let's say I'm a solopreneur with a very limited marketing budget, and I'm being successful with conversion rates using YouTube content, as well as Google ads and some retargeting with Facebook ads. Tell me why I would start pushing or spending time on those other channels.
It depends. I think it depends on your end user. If you're seeing success, so you have to split your data and really look into it, which is, so I'll pick on Google ads because it's one of my favorite ones to pick on. It could be that the Google ads are capturing the conversion, but are they the ones that are generating the demand or interest, you know? Because if they're just capturing the conversion, you may not want to spend your money there. So for example, what I mean by that, and this is why I think even on your checkout, having the simple thing, which is how did you hear about us, will tell you this. Because if you're seeing Google conversions high, you know, like they're converting high, but then you're realizing that a lot of your customers are learning about you through, let's say, Instagram or Facebook. In that case, you don't necessarily need to spend money on Google AdWords, because by the time they get to Google search and they just type in your name, they're looking for you already. They just happen to click that ad because Google makes sure that that sponsored ads comes up right away because they want to make money, right? So I think that's the big thing, and it just depends, you know. So I think on the consumer side, the direct to consumer side, the channels that I personally would absolutely invest with, Meta, so that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? And then after that, it's up to you based on where you want to see those conversions. Twitter for direct to consumer on the help. It depends. So here's what's interesting is that you're in a space dealing with knees that's very, very popular. And I know for a fact on Twitter, a lot of people talk about this knee health, knee rehabilitation, all these different things. So that might be worth exploring. That's my take on it. Or what about you?
So
Well,
you're doing.
And before Aura does that, let me just say that yes, when I say I have success with Google, it's because on checkout they're saying they found me through Google, meaning they're entering that information in for me. So my two primary sources are, you know, probably 70% Google, 20% YouTube, and then it's other like personal referrals or whatever. So, or I don't know if you know, my average age of my consumer is 50 plus, probably female, FYI.
Okay. So you said you're doing YouTube, Google search, and then Facebook, right? And most of your channel is coming from Google search. Do you know if those are people branded searches or intent searches? So branded is like searching for your product name or your company name, or people searching for like what you offer, like knee.
Right. It's like mostly my biggest one is 5 things I need to know before knee replacement surgery, because I wrote a blog about that. So they find that one. And then now in the last 3 months, I've seen my company name being searched directly, which is a huge win for me because 2 years ago, nobody did that.
Yeah. I've got a slightly different take on this because my understanding is you're kind of early on in your company, and I'm a big fan of paring things down. And if things are working, don't need to add on anything else. Keep it very simple. I mean, do you feel like you honestly have fully maximized your Google search right now? Like, have you?
No. I mean, I have a certain budget, and based on that budget, so I mean, there's so much more I can do. But I feel like what I can capture, you know, and again, you guys understand all the volume searches and, you know, what's difficulty levels and all that stuff. But I feel like I'm paying my bills. I'm making, you know, I'm paying down debt. I'm covering my costs. That's a win. And I don't have millions of dollars in marketing budget. So, you know, to me, my time, right? My time is very limited. And so, and I personally am not on TikTok or Instagram or what was the other one? Twitter, you know, so I would have to learn all these channels in order to be on them, and it doesn't sound fun to me.
Well,
and that's fair. And I will.
No, it's not fair. That's not fair.
I feel like I am my consumer. I mean, I feel like I'm a 50-year-old female, and so I feel like if anything, I go to Pinterest first. Like they're looking for some solutions on Pinterest, like how to make my own ice pack, and I'm like,
N of one. Gonna say that's an opinion. Sorry, that's not. That's an opinion.
Yeah. My thought process, how we view this, how we work with clients on this is like we stick to the big three, you know, Facebook, so that's Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, Google search, right? LinkedIn's out for you, right? So it's Facebook, Instagram, Google search. Optimize, scale this up till you feel like you've kind of hit a bar, and then add on the next channel, right? Biggest mistake companies make is they're on all the channels all at once, spending all the money, have no path forward for testing, for validating, for scaling, for experimenting, do it all at once. and then like no channel really works as well as it should be because they're just spread too thin.
Right.
So yeah, I think part of it for you is yeah, let's get a full understanding of, since Google search is your primary, since it probably sounds like you're spending the most money there, where are these people truly coming from, right? Are they really coming from searching for your company name? And if so, they're finding out about you somewhere else. Let's figure out where that is, and wherever that um, demand creation piece is coming from, maybe double down a little bit more on there. That could be more content, right? It could be more like, hey, SEO is working really well. We need to double down on SEO. It could be, hey, they're actually finding out about us from some like community post that someone made. Let's figure out where that is. Or it could be, hey, you know what? Facebook is really good for just driving. Facebook, Instagram is really good driving for just driving awareness, and then people see it, come back 2 or 3 weeks or a month later, and like actually just search what was that knee thing and search for it, right? I think there's that unknown unknown that needs to be figured out first, and then you can decide, hey, you know what? I'm going all in. I'm going to own every single. We're going to be the number one ranking for everything new related to this product. Or it's like, hey, you know what? We only need to have I'll call it a maintenance budget, enough budget in Google to capture people that are searching for our brand or searching for their product, but we don't need to scale up Google. We actually need to put more of our money towards Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of channels. That's how I tend to think about it. But I like small, unless you need to do otherwise. Yeah.
I'm in agreement. I concur. I agree with that. My one caveat to that I would say is like, as the founder and then as the company, go get the handles for both those two entities on all these channels. Just have it.
Oh,
right?
I have them. I have them.
Okay.
I have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
And-
do that. And what I would say is that as you grow on one channel, so I'm a big fan of definitely focusing on one channel at a time so you can master them. But then what'll happen is, if you look at some of the larger like influencer brands, let's say on LinkedIn, is that a lot of their followers will try and find them on these other platforms. And then you can use that as a signal to say, oh, for some reason, like I'm not posting a lot of content, but I'm seeing my personal handle or my company handle get like a little bit of followers like here and there on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, in which case that should be an indicator, right? The other thing is that you have to get ahead of these trends and think about, in terms of distribution, where, what is going to be becoming a thing. So I'll give you a great example for this podcast. Okay. We never really leveraged Twitter a whole lot. We have a Twitter handle. We post every now and then, never really leveraged it, right? Twitter, now X, wants to be a video first platform. They want to be the source of that. So a lot of major podcasters are releasing their episodes first on Twitter, right? And there's some functionality in there that you don't see in any other platform. Like you can be watching a podcast, like the video on Twitter, an hour, 2 hour long podcast, and then retweet just one certain segment. So as a result of that, now we're uploading our podcast there, even though it's not getting a whole lot of engagement. We're trying to get better about that. I'm with you, believe it or not. Look, I do social media for a living, and it is exhausting for me too.
Yep.
I hear you.
I'll add on there is that, yeah, there can be and there will be like untapped channels or untapped opportunities, especially, like I said, the big three. Everyone is on the big three. It's going to be generally the most expensive because every single person is marketing on those channels. Pinterest actually could be an untapped thing. You could run a quick experiment and see if you can, run an experiment for 2 weeks at a definitive budget, whatever that may be for you. That's appropriate, that you're willing to basically toss aside and just know that, right? It's an experiment. You're trying to validate and get positive signals. And if you can get sales out of it, then great. That's the win. And you can move forward and start to compare that to your historic metrics on other channels. And then Reddit, like I haven't heard you talked about that, like that it could be an untapped channel as well too. They are now offering, I think, at $500, like 500 for 500. So you spend 500, they give you 500. So there you got $1,000 test right there that you can run on Reddit, right? So as long as that's within budget, that's comfortable for you, you understand that it is an experiment. You can come in with that mindset. Sure, why not? I think for Omar and I, we deal with a lot of clients, and everyone is so caught up on lead gen and we have to meet these lead numbers, that it doesn't give us the room to experiment because we have to fight back and say, hey, there's no guarantee on leads on this. So we miss out on those things, but that's the wrong mindset to have. But it's something that Omar and I have to fight with all the time. Um,
Yeah, I would
yeah.
I would add, guys,
Okay.
that yeah, certainly it depends on the I've been in the large corporations now, leading my small startup. The mindset sometimes it's wrong. Like, I have to justify this budget for this number of leads.
Yeah.
And social media, it's a long journey. It's an eternal journey. You know,
Yep.
every month piles up onto the next one.
Yep.
And here the king is to be constant and keep doing it every single month. I would differ on your opinion, that I might be wrong. That at least for I mean, vascular surgery, interventional cardiology, these fields, the most successful networks for us, and agreeing with Omar, a post that you did a few days ago, LinkedIn is very powerful for vascular surgery. Interventional cardiology, I think it's number one. Number two might be Twitter in the US and UK. The rest of Europe, Twitter is not used, or X is not used by predominantly surgeons. Now, what I will say is, I agree with you, Alright, that the focus is king. I first try to get a very high notoriety on LinkedIn, which is the number one, and forget
Yep.
everything else.
Yep.
That might be a mistake. But piling up on that, then we will move to Twitter. And LinkedIn and Twitter are the two main social media networks that we will use on these two spaces. And being very constant, I'm a great fan of the organic growth. That doesn't mean that at some point, if you need a boost of notoriety, especially if you are going to launch a new product or you are going to be commercial for first time, you wouldn't go and spend some piece of the budget into that. But I think that if you leverage your website with meaningful blog posts, advertised in Twitter and LinkedIn, I've got great results. I don't know what you guys think.
No,
All right.
yeah, no, I agree with that as well too. I think obviously organic is the primary, as long as you can grow that channel, knowing that it takes time. The trade-off, right, is money is an accelerator, right? So you can pay these platforms to guarantee reach in front of your target audience today, and not have to wait 3, 6 months or whatever to kind of build up that organic following, right? So that's the trade-off there of paid organic. Either way, you should deploy both, right? Starting off with the organic post as well, you boost it or promote it, pay it, sponsor it, or whatever you may need to do there. And yeah, I do generally agree. Like, yeah, pick two channels. There's no point in trying to be everywhere. What's the movie? Everything, everywhere, all at once. There's no point in doing that, right? It's because your customers are going to be someplace. And then from there, you can kind of figure out what makes sense. As your team grows, you can then tailor your assets and content. Everyone wants to be the Gary V, where Gary V is everywhere. And he's doing 20 different posts all over the time, but he's got a team behind him helping to facilitate that process.
Not only does he has a team, he owns a massive marketing agency, so that helps.
But yeah, I think every company needs to pick their primary channels. For most, it's literally going to be 2, maybe 3 that are like the prime. Like after a year, you'll look back and say, you know what, like these are the 3 that drive leads, they drive engagement, they drive whatever, like that's it. And everything else is just kind of a nice to have. Because you'll see from the metrics, like, how'd you hear about us? We heard about you from your LinkedIn posts. How'd you hear about us? Your YouTube video. How'd you hear about us? Da, da, da. And you'll see after a quarter, after 6 months, after a year, and then you can say, oh, you know what? Like, no point in doing these other channels because the not the risk reward, the value reward or whatever the ratio is just isn't there.
Yeah, and it's very different if you're a large corporation or medium-sized company where you have a lot of competitors and you have to reach their level or overcome their level, rather than you are in a smaller company that you are trying to grow. You can give
Well,
yourself time and be tight on budget because, I mean, even you are commercial, it's not like you can serve millions of clients. So you can give yourself a time, right?
Yeah.
When you're a small company and try and error and see what it works. Whilst you are a big corporation, yeah, probably they will come to you, will say, well, this is the budget, probably it's going to be bigger budget, but we need these results. And that's what you said. Well, that's not reasonable because, I mean, you will give me all the
and
budget you want, but we have to try what it works. It
and
might not
and
work.
and, and Andrew, let me jump in real quick. The other thing I would say is that there's a lot of things as a startup you can do that a big company cannot do, and they
I
just won't do. And I'll give you a great example of that, which is, let's just say I'm gonna use a random example. Let's just say that because there are a lot of physicians who are leveraging Instagram using TikTok, right? And so you can create some content, just enough, like 10 videos, just reels, just enough to kind of talk about who you are, what you do, etc. Have that on your company page. And then every day or every week, set aside some time where you go follow some hashtags, go check some users, and just go and leave comments. And your whole goal is not to create any more content, but to leave comments on pieces of content to get the user to be like, oh, who is this company? And they click and come inbound to you, right? Large companies are not going to do that. I think you as a founder, and I've seen you like posting more on LinkedIn and everything, which is good. Leaving value adding comments or just engaging with clinicians on their posts, like when they publish something, or there's so many areas of opportunity. I'll give you a free one. This was actually one of my favorite tactics when I was at a company and we had like no users, which
Mhm.
is I would look up and I would have a Google alert when somebody publishes a paper, right? And so I would take a screenshot of the paper, maybe create like a little bit of a graphic or everything in Canva. I would post the screenshot or that image on LinkedIn, tag the authors, and just write down like, "Hey, great paper. These are my main takeaways." And then as a result, those authors reshare you to their audience. On Twitter, believe it or not, when I would do this on Twitter and I would tag the authors and their hospital, the hospitals would retweet it because who's running like I had Hopkins, Cornell, massive accounts, right? Do this. Why? Because the person who's running those accounts is like a social media manager and they're like, oh my God, somebody tagged us. Let's retweet. May not work with like the Mayo Clinic, but I can't tell you how many times I leveraged that and I got exposure to hundreds of thousands of people that way. So there's all these tactical things. You just have to be very creative about it
It's a
and
great
just do
tactic.
things. Yeah, do things that these larger companies are just not willing to do. Again, to go back to the main theme of our talk today, which is Alphatec, is like, okay, they chose LinkedIn, and that's the only channel that they have. Okay, great. At the bare minimum, do that channel really well. Like that's it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree
They
with
should
you more. Yeah.
they should be like their LinkedIn should be out like the home run because it's the only channel that they have, right? And it's
Yeah, but can I just say, as an outsider
yeah,
who has no marketing experience other than
yeah,
for my own business, that LinkedIn video that you guys shared has to go to the consumer. The consumer needs to see that because it's that patient journey. But LinkedIn is full of health professionals. So other surgeons are going to see it, other health entities are going to see it. But
There's
that
not
needs,
there's no patience on LinkedIn.
I'm just saying, the
One
majority of
billion
people,
people.
I
1
know,
billion.
I
Okay.
know. But I'm just saying that the consumer is going to look on Google, like, what can I do for my back pain? I'm a
yeah.
CrossFit athlete. They're going to
True.
Google something and
True.
they're going to
So,
go on
but
YouTube. Like, what can I do for my back? And like I said, to me, videos like that,
Yeah.
that's where they're going to find patients.
oh, how did we skip that? I'm sorry, Shella. I kiss you. You reminded me of something. They don't have a YouTube channel. How are you a
Yeah.
public company? Damn it. I completely missed that. Yeah, they don't have a YouTube channel. How are you a public company? You don't have a YouTube channel.
Right.
Like I couldn't believe it. I thought it was like dreaming. Yeah, they don't have a YouTube channel. So, but to go back to your point, what you just described is the bottom of the funnel when somebody knows the problem they have, they can name it, and they're looking for a solution. Some of these other things, even though they may not have that problem, it's good to be top of funnel because then you market to the kids of the patient or a relative or something. And again, I think there's a variety of ways to distribute that. Main point that you're making, though, I completely agree. But yeah, I don't know how I completely miss that. It's because it's so bad. It's so bad that like I forgot that on top of all these things, they don't have a YouTube channel. Yet they spent $220 million so far this year on like, you know, sales and marketing.
What I could do with that budget, I just can't even imagine. So anyways, I'm glad I don't have that budget, so it's fine.
When you get that budget, come spend it with me and Orad. We'll make sure that you blow up.
You got it. You got it.
We'll be great stewards of your money.
great stewards of your money. I could see that.
That's going to be the new agency
I'm gonna put
slogan.
that on my I'm gonna put that on my website. Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, we're a little bit over time now, so I want to thank you all for joining. If you are listening to this on the podcast, check the show notes below, click that link and register. These are open Zooms to all founders, CEOs, MedTech, marketing managers, salespeople, whoever it is, join us. That being said, we want to thank you all. Thank you to my host, Orette, and we'll see you all next time.
Have a good one, everyone.
See you later, everybody.
Guys.
Take care. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to do me a big favor and join so many other people who have helped grow this podcast, take a second and look below. If you're on Apple, give us 5 stars and write a short review. If you're on Spotify, just give us 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. And most importantly, if you can, subscribe. We release so many different episodes that you may miss. Be sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on. You get extra points with me if you subscribe across all 3 channels. Thank you so much. And if you felt like this episode helped you, send this to somebody who'd really enjoy and appreciate it. Share and spread the love. We'll see you all next time.